chamber in Santa Fe is a traditional chamber of commerce in the sense of traditional chambers of commerce in the United States are supported almost entirely by their membership, by the businesses within the community. They get very little assistance of any kind from any other source other than from their members. In New Mexico, there are only 3 chambers of commerce that are the traditional chambers of commerce. One is in Albuquerque, the Albuquerque Chamber, and they are the largest chamber of commerce in the state. The second is here in Santa Fe. We are the second largest, and then the third is in Las Cruces. And the difference is quite simply, in all other communities in New Mexico, the chambers of commerce receive a significant amount of money either from their city or from their county government to perform tourism functions, to act as the marketer for the community. And in Santa Fe, government has done that for themselves, as they do in Albuquerque and Las Cruces. So it makes us dependent upon our members, which for chambers of commerce is really the best kind of organization in this country. And the reason it's the best kind of organization is it allows us to take exception with things that the city may do. And in Santa Fe, this is a very difficult community in which to do business because there is so much anti-business sentiment. And that comes from a lot of different sources. But the primary source that we get it from is from city government, where there's not a business-friendly atmosphere in city government. They would just as soon make things more difficult for business as make it easy for business. So it allows us, as a member-driven organization, to take exception. When they want to do things that are detrimental to business, we then take exception with those. That assists us in establishing our reputation and our standing with our membership. So hopefully what happens at all of that energy makes it easier for us to get support from our members, and we don't have to depend on money from any other source. Some of the examples of things that we're dealing with today, right now today, there is a significant focus on water. And we have several city councilors in Santa Fe who desperately want to use the water situation or the lack of water to control growth. In their minds, controlling growth is not really what we see as controlling growth, because we too think that growth needs to be controlled in Santa Fe. But in their minds, it means stopping growth. And a community is either growing or it's dying. There's no in between. So our sense is that there must be a healthy and sustained rate of growth in Santa Fe, and the only way you can do that is by allocating your resources properly and by making sure you have new resources. Santa Fe bought the water company from private enterprise, the city did, 6 years ago. And in those 6 years, they've not made one attempt to buy a new supply of water. They've only dealt with the supply of water that they've had, and for the 6 years that they've owned the company, that's been okay up until this year. And when we hit this year, what they find is that the supplies of water are insufficient. And so we've had to cut back significantly. Santa Fe gets about 40% of its water from snowmelt in the winter. And last winter, we had virtually no snow. So there was very little snowmelt this spring, and very quickly we began to realize we were going to have a problem with water. And when that happened, several of our city councilors immediately said we must stop all growth immediately. We can't do anything further until we solve this water problem. Well, they've had 6 years of ownership to begin dealing with it, and they've not dealt with it. So what we've said is that we agree that you need to control growth. This is after all a desert. It's a high desert, mountain desert area, but it is still a desert area, and so we do need to control and use the water resource as carefully as possible. But There are many sources of new water out there, and Santa Fe actually has some new sources of water that they've owned the rights to for 25 years. And in those 25 years, they've made no attempt to get the water into Santa Fe. And now, one of the things that we've managed to do in this water debate that's been going on is focus them on the need to go get that water. It's water that comes from snowmelt in Colorado, and it's water that was allocated some 25 years ago. Santa Fe got a 40-year water right. And they are doing what we asked that they should do. Before their water right expires, we've asked them to go to the federal government and ask the federal government to give them that water right in perpetuity so that there's no time limit on it. And it's called the San Juan Chama water right. San Juan Chama is the source of the water as it comes into the river. Actually, the water is piped from the Colorado River over to the Rio Grande River and then allowed to flow down the Rio Grande River, and the communities along the river that have water rights are allowed to take a certain amount or take the amount that they had water rights to out. If Santa Fe had done this at any time in the past, they would have had enough water to sustain themselves throughout this water crisis. There would have been really no crisis. So we've said it's imperative that you get that water now, and they are working on that. They have also, and the thing that we're working on today and have been working on for the past 6 weeks, they've proposed a water budget. And the purpose of the budget in the proposal is, again, to stop growth. What we've said is that the budget consists of two different components. It consists of your income and your expenditure. And you must increase your income if you expect to be able to spend more. And they've not done that. So we're saying, yes, pass a water budget, but make sure you recognize that you need more water in the future. And hopefully we've got them on track to doing that. Another is an issue of a living wage. In Santa Fe, we have a number of people who make low wages and can't afford to live in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is an expensive place to live, as you probably picked up on. But what city government wants to do is artificially raise the minimum wage in Santa Fe, so that everyone is required to pay a higher wage. Well, our sense is that will only drive costs up. It will drive the cost of living up along with everything else, and the people they're trying to help really won't be helped. They'll probably be hurt because many of them will probably lose their jobs. Employers will look more carefully at their good employees, and the ones that have limited language skills and are just starting out probably will be fired, and they'll not have a job. So our sense is that government should not be sticking its nose into the private sector and trying to regulate the wages in the private sector. The private sector should regulate that itself. I know my experience is when I started to work many years ago, my first couple of jobs were minimum wage. Well, that made me realize very quickly that I didn't want to stay at minimum wage very long, and if I wanted to get out of minimum wage, I had to increase my skills, increase my education, and improve my job skills so that I could move up on the ladder and get out of the minimum wage situation as quickly as possible. Is an economy. The economy in Santa Fe is very much dependent upon tourism. Santa Fe is a community with very little industry beyond tourism and beyond state government. Of course, we are the state capital. State government is the largest employer in Santa Fe. The second largest employer, if you look at it collectively, is the tourism industry. That's all of the hotels, the restaurants, the museums, the things that help with the tourism industry. And so as much as 40% of the city's budget comes directly from tourism. It makes it a little bit difficult because we don't have a mixture of jobs. We have high-paying jobs where people own businesses, And then we have people who work for the businesses that feed tourism, which are primarily service industry. They're retail, they're restaurants, they're hotels, and typically the wages aren't as high there. We have a very high dropout rate in our school system, and we've recently begun to address the dropout rate and say that we need to diversify our economy and get some minimal manufacturing jobs into the economy so that there are jobs in the mid-range of paying. What we see is that students in high school today in Santa Fe have two choices. They're either going to go on to college, and once they graduate from college, they'll likely end up somewhere else, working in a larger city, or they're going to go into the tourism industry. And it doesn't take many of them long to figure out that in order to get into the tourism industry, they can start at the bottom and work their way up to something in the middle. And they're never going to do very well, but why finish school? Why take the time to finish school? So we have a very high dropout rate here. It's said that it's as much as 38% of the students in Santa Fe actually drop out before they leave school, and that's difficult to deal with. The public education system in the United States is not what it used to be. Compared to many other industrialized countries, we're way down the list, and that's an issue that has to be dealt with not just in Santa Fe, but throughout the United States, I think, in the next few years, or we're going to fall farther behind. And that used to be one of the leading industrialized economies in the world is suddenly not as strong as it once was, particularly when you compare us to many of the Western European countries, as well as some of the Scandinavian countries and Oriental countries. The area that we see as an area of potential growth is the area of technology. One of the nice things about having the high quality of living that we have in Santa Fe is that many of the people involved in technology who can do their business from almost anywhere prefer to do their business from an area that has a very high quality of life, which we have here. One of the things the growth of the tourism industry has given Santa Fe is a much sharper focus on the arts and entertainment and so on. So many of the things that make the quality of life very high are here. We think those things are things that would then attract more of the technology-based companies. Many of the things that we do are quite fun. We have coming up on Monday a golf outing, which we make a significant amount of money on. We also make a significant amount of money on legislative reception, since this is the state capitol. When the legislature goes into session in January, we do a reception for all the legislators, and we'll have 800-900 people at the reception, along with most of the other business organizations in the state. And when all is said and done, we make $16,000, $18,000 a year off of that, and about the same amount off of our golf outing. We do monthly networking events. Networking is something that's very big in American business. Business people getting together and exchanging business cards, making new contacts. And we do a business after hours, which is not all chambers of commerce do them. But ours are quite successful. We have them the fourth Thursday of every month. They are at a different place every month, and we'll have anywhere from 120 to 350 people attend one of those. And they're just very social, from 5:30 till 7:30 in the evening. We do every month a breakfast on the first Friday of each month, where we get our members together, have breakfast, and then we give them 30 seconds to stand up and tell us who they are and what they do. And you can say quite a bit in 30 seconds. A lot of people say, well, you're not giving us much time, and then they get up and sit down in 20 seconds and realize they haven't used their full allocation of time. But that's another opportunity for our members to get together, to meet other business people. We also we have a number of committees. We do most of our work in defining policies for the Chamber through committees. That's a very big thing in this country. And the committees typically will take a problem or take an issue and look at it and then give our Board of Directors guidance as to how they think that we should be dealing with that particular problem or issue. And that then becomes, with the board approval, our policy on whatever issue that it is that they're pursuing. We have a number of organizations in Santa Fe. One is called SCORE, S-C-O-R-E. That stands for the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And they are successful business people who have retired, but they're donating their time to help other business people. And we do a series of seminars using their resources, and we do them here in our office. We have space to do that. And so we will invite our members in very low-cost seminars on proper bookkeeping, on human resources issues, just various things that business people are going to face in their day-to-day business. There are three primary reasons for belonging to an organization like ours, which is entirely voluntary. The first reason is the ability to network, the ability to meet other business people and to interact with them, to gain new business contacts, to either sell something or buy something to the people that you meet. And that's the primary reason that people will get involved in an organization like ours. The secondary reason is exposure for their business, and we provide that through the personal contacts, but also through our website. Our website is one of the most, because we are a high tourism area, our website receives a tremendous amount of traffic. And so it's very important for our members to have the presence on the website. And all of our members are listed on our website. If they would like to link their website to our website, we have a small additional charge. And with that charge, then someone can click onto their business and go directly to their website. So that's the exposure side of it. The third area is advocacy, being the staff and the board having policies that are advocating growth and good business practices. And that's what we do at the staff level in order to build the foundation for the organization. We develop a legislative package every year. By legislative package, I mean we look at what we think is going to happen at the state legislature, and then we develop positions on what we would like to see happen or what we don't want to happen at the legislature. And then when the legislature comes into session, as those issues come up, I visit the legislature, typically on a daily basis throughout the legislative session, and talk with legislators. And in order to be able to do that properly, I have to register as a lobbyist with the state of New Mexico. And I then become, of course, the Chamber's official voice at the legislature. We pay a small fee to register with the state that we are going to be lobbying the legislature. And then we have to turn in reports. If we make any donations to a legislator, we turn in a report. If we take a legislator to lunch or to dinner, we have to report that. And typically the reporting aspect of it keeps things, or it's supposed to keep things honest, so that you're not bribing public officials with your money. And being a lobbyist, either at the local, state, or national level, is pretty much the same, except that the lobbyists at the national level typically do a lot more throwing around of money than we do at this level. I typically will go through the entire legislative session, and other than my time, I'll spend probably less than $500 on meals and things like that with legislators. So we keep it a very low budget operation. About 50% or 46% in Santa Fe speak Spanish. Now, most of them speak both Spanish and English. Those that are immigrants, and there are a few. There's a growing immigrant community in New Mexico, and they speak only Spanish. But most of the the Hispanic population that has been here for many generations, dating back 402, 403 years, speak both English and Spanish. And they will be speaking Spanish when they are with one another, but when someone who speaks English comes in, they generally change to English. It's not much of a problem. It only becomes a problem in the schools where students coming from immigrant families are then really the ones that their families depend on to help them learn to speak English, and that gets very difficult. And that's a growing population. Probably 8 to 10% of the population here are immigrants, mostly from Mexico, speak only Spanish until they enter the public schools, and many of the teachers are bilingual. They speak both English and Spanish, so that's helpful. But it slows down the rest of the students because those students have to be taught in a special way, both in their native language and in English. So it's a little bit of a problem. It's probably one of the things that also contributes to our high dropout rate here in our public schools.